So we're all very shaken about the events last week, and it takes some time to let it settle in, and I don't quite think it's settled in enough to talk about it properly and to really come out with something concrete, the lessons to be learned. But today the shiva was over and the family got up, and the difficult times begin now. Over the last 2 days, I know there were thousands of people that went to pay a shiva call, to give them chizuk, to hear stories, and to show the achdus that Klal Yisrael has. But now there comes a time of loneliness, questions begin to creep in, and it's a very difficult time for the Kletzky family. And I know that over the last couple of days, there's been many lessons that people have given. There's been many gedolim and rabbanim and rosh yeshivos that have given lectures and discussions about what we can take out of this particular incident. And there are too many to bring down and to talk about. And yet, even though there are so many, I still feel that there's something missing. This morning, as I was driving back to the city, the following mashal came to mind, a mashal of the sun. The sun, when you look up into the sky and you see the sun, it's impossible to look at the sun itself. It's impossible. The flaming ball of gas and fire that illuminates the world, it's impossible to stare at. The sun rays, that we can look at. Some rays are longer, some of them are shorter. Those you can stare at. But we all understand that the energy, the source of energy and warmth comes from the sun itself. It's not from the sun rays. The sun rays come on from the sun. All the answers and all the reasons and everything that's being said about what happened last week, I feel are sun rays. They may be true, and they may be important, and they may be something that we can take home and work on. Certainly, we're not belittling any of them, but I feel that there's still something missing. I feel that we're not quite getting exactly what the message is and what we should be working on. Yesterday, someone came over to me and showed me an article that was in one of the papers. It was a letter that was written to the Kletzky family by a fellow by the name of David Tzvi Gutstein. His name, they call him Dutzi Gutstein. And this fellow, Dutzi Gutstein, wrote a letter of nechama, a letter of condolence to the Kletzky family. And it was written up in the paper. This fellow, Dutzi Gutstein, last year was in a terrible automobile accident. It seems it was Erev Shabbos. He and his family, they were driving somewhere. They were going away for Shabbos, and they were going over a railroad. They were going over the railroad, and a train came barreling into their car. And Dutzi's wife, and I believe she was expecting, his son, Mati, a 2-year-old beautiful child, they were instantly killed. His in-laws and his in-laws' 3 children that were in the car, they were all snuffed out. In a few moments, his whole family was utterly destroyed. And Dutzi himself was gravely injured. He was in the hospital. And he says that when he woke up and people were hovering over him, he knew that the news wouldn't be good. And when they told him the news, he immediately was enveloped in this feeling of tremendous, deep emunah b'Hashem. It's something he writes in this letter of nechama to the Kletzky family, something that he really can't explain. It's not something he can put into words of how he felt and what he felt. All he knows is that at that moment when he was given that terrible news, that his entire family was wiped out, instantly, together with that came a beautiful package of consolation and emunah b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. And he says it's been a year now. And every day, no matter what he's going through, as soon as he starts to think a negative thought, something that's painful, immediately it's washed away by a feeling of emunah, feeling close to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And he tells the Kletzky family that he was following very closely. Last week, Monday night and Tuesday and Wednesday, he was following the story of their son Leiby very closely. And he was shaken to the core when he heard the terrible, tragic news that he was no longer amongst the living. But he ends off his letter and he says that he is comforted with the knowledge that now the Kletzky family is in the same hands that he's in. And those are the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Pasuk tells us, Vayidam Aaron, when Aaron HaKohen, when his children were taken, Nadav and Abihu were taken from this world. It says, Vayidam Aaron, Aaron was quiet. And I am certain that there were reasons, and there was probably very many reasons, understanding why it happened to those children, what made it happen. There were definite reasons there. And there were definitely ways that they could justify what happened. And yet the Torah HaKadosh tells us, Vayidam Aaron, Aaron was quiet. What does this mean? It means that Aaron HaKohen didn't need to come out for these reasons. It means that Aaron HaKohen, for some reason, somehow was given the gift of Emunah b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, along with the tragedy HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the gift of Emunah, that he did not need to come out to reasons, rationalizations, and justifications of what happened. It was Vayidam Aaron, he was able to be totally quiet, and he accepted the judgment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because it came together with this great Emunah that was given to him. The Netziv writes in Parshas Yisro, it says, V'eseh eschem al kanfei nesharim, L'aseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take Klal Yisrael on the wings of eagles. We'll go back to Eretz Yisrael on the wings of eagles. And the Netziv over there writes something fascinating. He says that there are two ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu deals with Klal Yisrael. There's one way he deals with us like a mother deals with an infant. You know, when a mother is dealing with her infant child, the child is totally hopeless and helpless. It can do nothing on its own. And it needs its mother. An infant needs its mother. It naturally is bound to its mother for every single thing it needs. Sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu deals with us in that manner, like an infant. Hashem scoops us up, and He embraces us, and He carries us, and He smothers us with love like a mother dotes on her infant child, because He needs it so badly. There are times, says the Netziv, that we've graduated from infancy. We're no longer infants. Rather, we've graduated, and now we're toddlers. And just like a mother and her toddler child knows that the child can go on its own a little bit, it can walk on its own. The child doesn't need the mother to scoop the kid up and embrace and walk around. But the mother still understands that if you leave a toddler alone, the child might trip, it might fall, there might be a stairway, there might be a stone in its way, and a toddler is not able to differentiate, and it might stumble. So the mother will always hold on to the child's hand to make sure that the kid doesn't stumble and doesn't fall and doesn't hurt himself. So sometimes the Rebbeinu Shalom deals with us like a toddler. We're no longer in the infancy stages that He needs to scoop us up. Rather, we're a toddler that HaKadosh Baruch Hu holds our hand as we go through our lives, and He makes sure that we don't stumble, we don't trip. But the Torah tells us at the end of days, V'eseh eschem al kanfei nesharim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take us on wings of eagles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will once again scoop us up, because we'll come to the realization, we will come to a situation in our history that we will not know how to deal with situations. We will be like infants once again. We will simply be in an infancy stage that HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to once again scoop us up, like a mother to her infant child. V'eseh eschem al kanfei nesharim, and that's how we will return to Yerushalayim, to Eretz Yisrael. In this week's parashas, and this week and next week, it talks about the travels of Klal Yisrael. And one of the Psukim teaches us, it says, Kasher yachanu kein yisod. The way Klal Yisrael camped, that's the way they traveled. And the Svarim tell us a fascinating insight, that a person has to understand that the same way, the same emunah a person has, when everything's tranquil and peaceful and easygoing, Kasher yachanu, when we're in camp, when things are good, everything's okay. Kein yisod, that's the attitude we have to have when we travel. When things are difficult, when things are topsy-turvy, tumultuous and turbulent, and everything's going the way we thought and the way we want it to go. But still, Kasher yachanu kein yisod, with the same emunah, that the way we lived when it was tranquil, that's the way we live when it's not that easy. A relative of mine, Rabbi Sorotskin, was telling me when the Nazis invaded Litha, and she had to escape with her husband, Rabbi Sorotskin, the famous Rosh Yeshiva, tells, when they were on the train, they went by train on the Trans-Siberian Railroad, and they crossed the ocean, they came to Shanghai. She said that when she got on the train, this was the message her father, the great Rosh Yeshiva, tells gave her. He says to his daughter, Kasher yachanu kein yisod. You're going on a long journey. It could be weeks, it could be months, it might even be years. But you have to know full well that you're now in the embrace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're being scooped up once again by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, enveloped in His love. You're going to be given the gift of Emunah. You're going to feel close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when you're traveling on this train, when you're going on this difficult journey, through who knows where, always remember where you come from. And you should live like that. And she told me, whereas everybody else was very nervous and very tense, she and her husband, they lived on the train. It was a 2-week journey. She said they lived on the train as if they were back home. She had china and silverware. She had cloth napkins. They had svarim. They kept their normal daily schedule. They learned in the morning, they learned in the afternoon. They took walks up and down the train because that's what her father commanded her to do. Kasher Yachinu came so, she said, it was not like that by most, but by her and her husband, they lived the life of Amunah. And everything was just right. It was peace. It was peaceful and tranquil. The last couple of nights, it's been difficult. You go to sleep at night, you can't help. You know, go wherever you go, it's inevitable. The conversation always returns to Leiby Kletzky. What and how and what if. And we have speculations this way and that way, and we're guessing, we're second guessing what we could have done, what should have been done, what would bring precautions. Wherever you go, we find people talking about this beautiful angelic child. And at night when we try to rest a little bit, it's impossible because our mind again, it goes right back to the same questions. How could it have happened? What was the message? What was the reason? The thought that comes to mind is of lion cubs. Lion cubs playing in a field, and suddenly one of the lion cubs wearing a crown on his head, he shoots past the rest of them, and with a crown on his head and in a ball of fire he ascends heavenward, back to Shemayim. This child, his name was Leiby from Yehuda. Lion is a lion. He was a young lion. It was a lion that we all thought, and certainly his family, but I believe all of us, we had hopes and aspirations for this young, beautiful, angelic child of becoming the Lion King. He would have grown up to be a real Yehuda, a real lion, perhaps the king of his pride. But for some reason, reasons unknown to us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that he wanted this precious little boy. He wanted the neshama back up in Shemayim. And so perhaps that's what happened. This lion cub, this child that never met what he expected or his parents expected, that he ascended the Salar's Eish. He ascended to Shemayim with a crown on his head and a ball of fire. Brilliant, radiant, warming the world. There was so much achdus, so many lessons to be learned. And they're all right, they're all true. But I really feel that what we need to work on, and what is the most difficult thing to work on, is our emunah. Every other lesson is a lesson to be taken, and they're important. But the thing that we need to work on is emunah. Without emunah, we can never get through these situations. And that's what I believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for us. It's not to be explained. Some things cannot be explained. Perhaps that's what happened. The explanation is that it's unexplainable. It's completely unexplainable. And it will remain like that. The story continues to unfold. There are new facts coming out daily. We don't know the reasons. But the thing that we need to work on is that emunah pshuta b'Hashem. If we can come to that level, if we can come to a level of emunah, like Dutzi Goodstein says in his letter, that we're enveloped in an aura of emunah b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. To them, it was given as a gift. To those who remain here with the gaping hole in our hearts. To those of us who are mourning over the loss of this beautiful child, Leiby Kletzky, Zechar Levracha, it's what we have to work on. It's not necessarily just given to us as a gift. It's a responsibility. It's something that we need to work and get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we can do that, if we can work on our emunah and understand not everything's explainable, and not everything has a reason, by Yidam Aron, we come to a level that we can be comfortable with the question. There's questions we have and we can live with those questions because we feel enveloped and we're scooped up in the embrace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's as if a mother is holding her young infant child. That's the way we have to feel, my friends. We have to feel as if the Rebbeinu Shalom is carrying us like an infant child. He's getting us through life. And Amir Hashem, if we do that, we will have the ultimate feelings of embrace, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be Mekayim, that pasuk that says in the Torah, the Es Stem Al Kanfin Yesharim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will scoop us up onto the wings of eagles, and He will return us to Yerushalayim. May when these words be able to go into our hearts, and may each and every one be zeicha to be able to work on our emunah, to come a little bit closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, That could be the greatest Yikaron for Leiby. It could be the greatest memorial for his life, what he represented, and ultimately will get us through every situation in life. And we should zeicha to the coming of Mashiach. Amen.
Amen.